Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we have a really fun one. This is the best NBA free agents for the 2022 offseason. Now, there's a lot of star power that is in this group. I'm going to present the top 15 free agents that are available. We'll also kind of go over some of the cap space and what that could look like for a couple of teams. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you do not miss any more NBA content. It's absolutely free for you guys to hit that subscribe button. Now, looking at some of the teams that have some money heading into the offseason, we have the Detroit Pistons, we got the San Antonio Spurs, New York Knicks, Oklahoma City Thunder, Houston Rockets, just to name a few. And looking at this list, there's definitely some guys in the free agent pool that can make a big impact for some of these teams with the top cap space. I look at a team like the Detroit Pistons trying to make strides continuously. They hold the 5th pick in the draft, which is not something they were really hoping for. However, they ended up falling to 5, but they can make some strides in free agency. And there's a couple of guys that can really help them right the wrongs, from what's happened so far. They're currently in a rebuild, but they can maybe accelerate that with some free agent signings. Now, if we look at 15 to 11, a lot of really interesting names are popping up here. I'm going to start with Montrezl Harrell. He's a unrestricted free agent from the Hornets. Obviously came over there in a deal. And I look at Montrezl Harrell as one of those guys that can be a terrific bench scorer. We've seen that with him with the LA Clippers, had a big role on a couple of those playoff teams, as well as the Lakers and then the Wizards, and now, finally with the Hornets. But he's looking for another home. And I think that he had his second most efficient year in the NBA in terms of field goal percentage last season. So still a very, very competent scorer, a guy that can put the ball in the hoop, and is really, really good, along the baseline there. So Montrezl Harrell is not a guy that's going to be stretching the floor by any stretch of the imagination, but he can definitely help. Mo Bamba is another name, obviously a polarizing figure from his time in college, and then, to the NBA. It was not the same level of hype that we were, expecting from him. However, this season, he quietly enjoyed a really, really terrific year, especially from three. Had one of his best three-point shooting years of his career. Believe it was the best, actually, at 38%. So he made some strides there. He's also a very, very good rim protector, something that's an underrated part of his game. And that was why people fell in love with him, was the long wingspan and, the potential ability to knock down the three ball at the next level, which he finally kind of found some footing with that. So Mo Bamba is a big impact guy. And honestly, I'd love to continue to see him, progress in his career. He's a restricted free agent, but he is one of those players that is going to continuously grow. We knew he was kind of a project heading into the league, and finally he's starting to live up to some of that hype. Lou Dort is at number 13 here for me. And I look at this as a very, very unlikely option for a team, considering it is a team option. The Thunder are going to exercise that. But Lou Dort on a lot of three-point attempts a game. I think he's shooting over 7 threes per game. Definitely a volume shooter, a guy that's mainly a catch and shoot player. But at the end of the day, he's a really, really, really excellent perimeter defender. And we had seen that time and time again with his time with the Thunder, and could be a big impact player for a team in the future. But it looks like he will likely be staying in Oklahoma City. Mitchell Robinson is a terrific rim protector in his own right. At the end of the day, he is not a go-to scorer. He's going to score about 9 points a game. However, I look at him as a true defensive anchor for a team, can switch out into space, but really where his value lies is as a true rim protector. And honestly, Mitchell Robinson is super exciting. He's young, big time 7-footer, and, there's room to grow in his game. And also, like, when he does take some shots around the rim, he's pretty efficient with it, knows when and how to take his shots, and when to work that into a game. So Mitchell Robinson, a very, very efficient player when he does try to score the basketball. Russell Westbrook is a player that's obviously very polarizing, likely will opt into his player option, and we'll have to see what happens with the Lakers. But Russell Westbrook at this point in his career, rather inefficient last year. A lot of people think he's one of the worst players in the league. That's just not true. However, Russell Westbrook is a player that, high volume guy. And I don't see him, really landing on a championship contending team and being that guy. He's just not that player right now. However, he can help out a team that needs a volume scorer, and Russell Westbrook very well could do that for a team. So those are the 15 to 11. We jump into 10 through 6 now. Colin Sexton, obviously coming off of a big time injury. We're going to have to see how he recovers. His numbers were down a little bit when he had played, but Colin Sexton still an intriguing option moving forward for our team. Anthony Simons is another player that when he was able to play for the Blazers and kind of had the spotlight, he excelled. A lot of games where he flashed that star potential, for a team moving forward. Restricted free agent. I think Anthony Simons is one of those players that you can get really excited about, and he's very likely going to get a big time payday this offseason. Yusuf Nurkic, another guy, really good screen setter, can hit from the mid range as well. The kind of an intriguing option with a market that's not full of a ton of big time bigs. Yusuf Nurkic can be a very, very good option for teams looking to improve in that front court this offseason. So look at Yusuf Nurkic as one of those top options, followed by Jalen Brunson. Now, Jalen Brunson for the Dallas Mavericks has been absolutely instrumental in their run to the Western Conference Finals. Big shot after big shot, a good playmaker as well, does a good job controlling pace. So look for Jalen Brunson to, it's funny because the Dallas Mavericks had an opportunity to lock him down on a multi-year extension, and I just obviously opted to not do it. And now they're going to have to pay way more than they were previously, earlier this season when they had offered it. So Jalen Brunson will be getting a big payday. Miles Bridges, the super athletic big, I look at him as a guy that is going to excel in certain situations. He's not going to be that true go-to scorer. But however, in the right situation, I think he's going to help out a team tremendously. Athletic four who can really get after it, finishes above the rim, and is a pretty good defender in his own right. So I like Miles Bridges here from the Hornets. So the Hornets are losing two key components from their team, sort of the Blazers. So keep an eye on that. Now we're looking at 5-1. And I see DeAndre Ayton as a player that the Suns are going to have to make a big time decision on. He's going to earn, a lot of money on this next contract. There is going to be a team that's willing to pay him. Maybe it's Detroit, maybe it's San Antonio. I'm not exactly sure, but I think DeAndre Ayton, when you look at it from a holistic standpoint of, are they going to be able to afford him? I just don't know if the Suns will be able to. So they might have to let Ayton walk, which is going to be really tough considering how well he plays with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. And who knows how much of the playoff performance, towards the end of that Suns Mavs series will play into a factor here when it comes to free agent time. Next, you have Bradley Beal, had the wrist injury, didn't play in that many games this year. I think he only had played in 40 games, was it? So Bradley Beal could be a player that, I see him staying, opting into that player option, but once again, a true go-to scorer, one of the best scorers in the entire league. I mean, he can score from, all three levels, and I love Bradley Beal. I think that he is going to stay with the Wizards, though, and stick on that player option. But, there's a lot of teams I'd be lining up if he did opt out and opted, for free agency. So that'd be kind of interesting to see Bradley Beal being thrown into the mix. Kyrie Irving is another big question. We never really know Kyrie Irving's next move. And I think that's been pretty clear and obvious throughout his entire career. We're not exactly sure what he's going to do on a case-by-case basis. Super talented player, obviously could score the basketball at will. One of the best ball handlers of all time, an intriguing player, entertaining player to watch. And he's forced himself out of a couple situations as well. And I think he's matured a little bit in his career. However, I just don't know what's going to happen with him in the Nets. Going back to James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, we thought that this team was, for sure going to win a championship. It resulted in 0 between all three of them. Obviously, Harden had gotten dealt. And that kind of leads me to the next player, which is James Harden. And part of the reason is, James Harden was just never fully healthy. The hamstring still bothering him, I believe. And everybody says he lost a step. He is still a tremendous player. And that's why he is still ranked second on this list. A guy that can be a true go-to scorer. We have to remember there's been many times in his career where he's been in the MVP conversation. And you look at him from the standpoint of, can he lead a team deep into the playoffs? I think the answer to that is yes. I think you give him another, full offseason to recover. James Harden is still that kind of player yet. And honestly, I don't think it was really fair for Joel Embiid to say, he's not the same player he was in Houston. I just think that was kind of an uncalled for shot. But James Harden, at the end of the day, is still a terrific scorer, really good playmaker, a guy that, can get open shots for others as well. And that has a lot of value around the league. Whether it's going to be with the 76ers or somebody else, I think it's very likely he tests free agency. I don't know if, that situation in Philadelphia is super conducive for him to stay. And is it going to work with him and Embiid? I think the idea of it was, for sure it should work. Hypothetically speaking, a guy that can give Embiid a lot more space would definitely help him out, which, it didn't necessarily work at the end of the day. However, I don't know if you can just use one year to fully judge, that pairing of Embiid and Harden. Because remember when Harden first got there, it was crazy with the amount of space that Embiid had. This was a dynamic duo. People were thinking they were going to be championship contenders, and it's amazing how fast things change with people's opinions. So James Harden at 2. And then Zach LaVine. You look at Zach LaVine as a true 3-level scorer, a guy that has been terrific in his career, shooting the 3 ball on a high volume percentage. And also, obviously, one of the most athletic players in the league, and that's been true even after he tore his ACL. Big time player that made a lot of plays in his career. And I look at it from the standpoint of he can be a true, high level volume guy to lead a team into the postseason. We've seen it with the Bulls. It's going to be a work in progress. Maybe he stays with the Bulls, but there's a lot of teams that will be lining up for a guy like Zach LaVine with how talented of a scorer he is and the ability to really just, carry a team on his back. It's been pretty obvious. LaVine's ascension throughout his career has been absolutely crazy. He wasn't even a starter at the collegiate level. He was a 6-man at UCLA, and then goes to Minnesota Timberwolves, carves out a nice role there. But now he's really taken his game to a whole nother level, and it's been absolutely incredible. So I think that if you're looking at the 5-1 list, the most likely guys to leave will be Zach LaVine and DeAndre Ayton. James Harden probably next, and then Kyrie and Bradley Beal to kind of round it out. I just don't see Bradley Beal really moving. I think Zach LaVine is definitely going to test the waters. Maybe he's going to stay, and maybe he likes it in Chicago and he wants to stay around. But I think he's going to really test out the free agent market and see what teams are going to be willing to unload the bag. And is there another situation out there that he feels is better for him as an individual player and play style? So those are all things that you have to consider when looking at this free agent market. A ton of exciting names that are out there. You look at 4 star players yet, and a couple or a nice collection of really, really talented players that aren't necessarily at that star level. So keep that in mind when looking at this free agent list. We'll kind of back it up one more time. Let me know in the comment section below who is the most underrated free agent of this list, and let me know who else you want your team to sign. There's so many great potential free agent options. There's some guys with high upside. There's some guys that might be declining as soon as they sign their contract. So a lot goes into free agency, and I'm really excited to see how that plays out. Thanks again for stopping by. Hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. Also, please leave a like on today's video if you did enjoy the content. Really appreciate you stopping by, and we will catch you in the next video.